Hi, this is Wayne Northup, the lead pastor of Saints Community Church right here in New Orleans. I want to chat with you today a little bit about fundraising. Let me walk through some things that will be tips for you and how to become a better fundraiser. Let's dive right in. Number one, you've got to realize that you are the chief fundraiser. This is not just a part of your job before you launch the church. This will always be a part of your job. If you are a visionary leader, you're always going to need more resources than you currently have. So you've got to know that this is always going to be a part of your job. So you need to think of yourself as the CFO, the Chief Fundraising Officer of your church. The second thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you establish some goals. Let me give you one just to start with. Before you even launch the church, you've got to make sure that you raise at least 6 months of your operational budget. This will help ensure that you've got the resources you need to keep going while you're building momentum in your community. In other words, that goal right there is going to help you not have to worry for at least 6 months about trying to raise your operational budget. There are several other goals that you can begin to list as well. But before you start your fundraising, make sure that you have some of those goals set in place. Number 3, have clear expectations of your launch team tithing and your leaders giving. Listen, before the church even gets going, you've got to help your launch team understand this is a part of moving this church forward, is each one of them buying into the principle of tithing to the local church. And that starts from the very first moment you have your first launch team meeting, and making sure that all of your leaders understand that they are part of the engine that is getting this thing going and getting it running. Make sure that those expectations are very clear from the get-go. And you'll also want to make sure that you're communicating and vision casting a cause and a church worth giving to. And so make sure that those expectations are clear and that you're communicating the vision clearly to get them to buy in to tithing. Number 4, it's always good to find a strategic partner. Who's somebody? Is there an organization, a church, a business person? Is there somebody that could give maybe a large sum of money or maybe a monthly sum of money that you can begin a partnership with in some way? Think creatively. Who's a strategic partner that could help us in a major way as we move forward to launch this church and to keep this church thriving? Number 5, and this is a big one, you've got to develop donor relationships. You say, Wayne, how do I develop these donor relationships? Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sit down and you're going to want to create a tiered list, T-I-E-R-E-D, a tiered list. And you're going to create that list by asking yourself all of the relationships that you have. You're going to put them into multiple tiers. And how are you going to create those tiers, you ask? Well, here's the 2 questions that are going to create your tiers. Number 1, how much could this individual give? In other words, what is their giving capacity? If I were to ask them for a certain amount, how much is possible for them to give? That's going to help you create that tier of givers of maybe 50,000 or more, and then 25,000 or more, and 10,000 or more, and 5,000 or more. People who could give anything towards your church as you're getting going on the fundraising. The second question that you're going to want to ask is, what is my relationship with that person or with that organization or with that church? If you've got a strong relationship with them and their giving capacity is high, you're going to put them in a certain tier. If you've got an okay relationship with them, let's say you haven't talked to them in 10 years, but at one point you were close, then you're gonna bring them down into maybe the next tier. But those are the 2 big questions that you're going to create and you're going to ask as you're creating those lists. And then what you're going to do is, after you've kind of created this list of tiered donors, if you will, You're going to design a fundraising plan for each tier that includes the materials that they need to have. And so the different tiers will get different fundraising materials, and there'll be a different fundraising plan for each tier. Those top tier people, you're gonna wanna make sure that you meet with them face to face and that you give them some amazing resources that they have in their hands before you ever show up to that one-on-one meeting. The people down the list a little bit, you can maybe give them a few less materials. Maybe the people at the end of the list, kind of the bottom tier of people, you're just sending an email to them or you're writing a letter to them. But the idea here is that not everybody gets the same stuff and not everybody gets the exact same plan that unfolds according to whatever tier that they are in. And then on this, as you're developing those donor relationships, make sure that you have a specific amount that you're asking for and that you don't apologize for that amount. Be bold. Remember, you are not raising money for yourself. You are raising money for the kingdom of God. And so all that is happening here is a transfer of funds from one bank account to another bank account, but it's all within the greater kingdom of God. And so you've got to remember that, and you've got to allow that to cause you to not shrink back, not to be shy, but to be bold as you ask for that specific amount. And then last thing I'll say is this: make sure you say thank you. It's important that you follow up with those that are giving to you. It's people in your church, maybe your launch team members or your leaders that are tithing. Make sure that you say thank you. You've got to do this before you launch. You've got to do it on launch day. You've got to do it after you launch. You've got to follow up with each one of your donors, and you've got to make sure that you create different ways to say thank you. It might be a text, a phone call, send them a picture of something amazing that happened, write them a thank you note, something creative in multiple ways to make sure that you're saying thank you. Hopefully those are some helpful tips that I can give you today on fundraising to help take your fundraising to the next level. And remember this: where God guides, God provides.